and brand marketing. These are terms that come up in conversation all the time. So what exactly is performance marketing? What's brand marketing? What's the difference between the two and which one is better? First of all though, I've never heard of non-performance marketing. If brand marketing is the opposite, then there's only really two types of marketing. And that means by default that brand marketing doesn't perform. Both terms are fictitious. That's the short answer. But let's quickly talk about why these terms exist in the first place. And if you hear people using any term with a word in front of the word marketing, there's a fair chance that you're falling victim to category bias. And category bias is when you take a very large, complex topic with thousands of components and you lump certain elements of the whole into two different groups or a couple of groups before applying a label. In this case, we're talking over 40 different marketing channels and putting them all into two camps, performance or brand. And the problem with that is that it can eliminate the very detail you need to understand the whole system. And grouping together sounds good and feels comfortable and makes it simplistic to understand. But this can distort your perspective, which leads to further misunderstanding. So when people use the term performance or brand, what they're really talking about is the difference between brand advertising and direct response. And this battle is nothing new. It's been going on for decades. The only thing that's changed this time is the enemy. It used to be direct mail, and now it seems to be digital. On one side, there are very large global advertising agency groups who, in the last decade or so, have been threatened by the rise of digital mediums, especially self-service platforms like Facebook and Google. Now, both companies have taken billions of yearly revenue away from these agency holding groups and therefore threatened their entire business model. And these agencies have responded by positioning themselves even more so on the brand side of the war. They've decided to attack their new enemy by labeling them performance marketing or digital marketing. And these agencies share a collective hatred for Facebook and Google in particular, and have been on a PR rampage discrediting them at any term, and even hired popular marketing commentators to spread the word. They will refer to digital channels as being unable to affect the brand. They've claimed that these channels can only provide short-term effects. They'll sow fear in the minds of decision makers with alarmist headlines like customer privacy, data security, and digital fraud. And there's elements of truth to that, but it's been blown way out of proportion. And they do this because these agency groups share a symbiotic relationship with the large legacy publishers and broadcasters. And this is because they sell that advertising inventory to their clients and get fat fees for doing so. And agencies love brand advertising campaigns because they have the lowest measurement accountability and cost the most. Therefore, they can make the highest profit margin from these sorts of campaigns. So a client that has a very large budget and low expectations equals high profit margin, easy work. And really, who doesn't want a slice of that? But their entire business model is based on taking a percentage from the aggregate media expenditure of their clients. All the creative process, account management and all that hoo-ha is just a necessary overhead to win the account and keep the client entertained. Where they make the real money, though, is on the advertising and media bookings in the form of commissions and rebates, a source of revenue that's often hidden from view of many people in the industry. And you'll notice that those people who work in this brand advertising space will naturally tend to develop a sort of slight superiority complex. They view this kind of work as grubby, direct response, salesy work and will palm it off to junior employees or other agencies. They'll position this performance marketing work as the plaything of smaller brands and small digital agencies. Brand people, besides, are much better than that. They work on the brand, a much higher order function. Anything resembling direct response will muddy the pure brand waters they bathe in on a daily basis and must be avoided at all costs. So that's one side. Let's go to the other side. There are new age brands, marketing platforms, and agencies who are forging into the future using all the latest, lower cost, modern approaches to marketing. This group threatens the old legacy agency groups. And this new group is using all the latest digital tech to their advantage instead of just sitting there and complaining about it. Usually, this is sort of like smaller companies who aren't as attractive to an agency business model because they have more restrictive budgets and higher expectations. They're generally smaller, challenger brands who can't rely on the benefits of having that longer-term brand effect and momentum that keeps their sales ticking over. So they end up choosing lower cost direct response style channels, which are very attractive to them, and they end up getting addicted. They like digital because digital platforms get analytics suites for free out of the box. This provides comfort to decision makers because they can make accurate investment decisions from these data, even if we know this data generally isn't the most valid or reliable. Performance campaigns will typically drive online traffic to some kind of digital behavioral goal. Things like a product purchase if you're an e-com store, a form completion, a phone call, a button click, etc. And these actions feed into some kind of endpoint like a sales CRM or analytics diagnostic program, which they use to justify upstream expenditure. And these organizations will place a lot more discretion on any money spent on marketing due to their size. They will have very lean marketing operations bordering on what may be called cheap or inadequate. Things like early stage startups, companies run by bean counter finance execs, sole traders, SMEs, etc. But there's also major issues with these types of shorter term direct response campaigns. And this camp can be just as biased as the brand camp. They tend to prefer expenditure on marketing channels where the cause and effect is very clear and where the returns materialize quicker. Typically, this refers to digital channels used in a direct response manner. They'll favor things like search marketing, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, SEO, EDMs, etc., i.e. a digital agency. They will also have an over-reliance on digital behavioral data collection and ignore qualitative or high human touch data sources. So I'm sure you've been exposed to both of these camps sometime in the past, but essentially there are just two fictitious categories which the industry media likes to talk about and vilify depending on which side you stand. The takeaway here isn't which channel you're using, but the merits of focusing on the in-market portion of your target market. And typically this ranges from 0.1 to 5% versus targeting the larger out-of-market portion, which is generally in excess of 95%. This is a really important concept you need to understand. The channels you use and how you use them and who exactly you're targeting from those two groups is the secondary question. So let me show you an example of why this category bias can be so dangerous to the way you think. Pretend for a moment that you need to drill a hole into a wall. Whether you use a corded or battery drill is similar to the debate that's going on between digital and traditional media. There are hundreds of different brands of drill which you could buy. Either way, you're still going to be able to drill the hole. The trade-off might be time or effort, but both will get the job done. So arguing over performance versus brand marketing is like getting caught up debating which brand of drill to use. You're going to use Bosch, Makita, DeWalt, or AEG. What's the difference? You're still going to be able to drill your hole. Maybe one lasts a bit longer than the other, one's a bit cheaper, maybe one is slightly quicker, one comes with drill bits and maybe one doesn't. And so if you have half a brain, you'll notice we've missed a lot of other questions we should be asking. Questions like, where are you drilling the hole? Which material are you drilling into? Are you drilling in the right place? Which drill bit is the best one to use? How deep you're drilling and for how long? What's the hole for? How does this hole relate to the larger project? Who's drilling the hole? Will you have to drill more holes in the future? And if so, how many and what type? Answering all these questions first will provide you with the clarity needed to choose the right drill to drill your hole. So the people who get caught up debating about this channel or that channel, performance or brand or digital, traditional, typically this is symptomatic of a lower level of understanding. So if you're one of these people, I'd encourage you to look at the detail. Understand the strengths and weaknesses of each channel or medium and how best to use them. Get first-hand experience in execution within that channel. Then you'll be better able to assess which channel or channels are best to achieve whatever goal you're trying to achieve. So for example, just because you're using search marketing, that doesn't mean it's going to perform by default. What does performance mean anyway? What are you going to measure and optimize for? I've seen search campaigns where a lot of money is spent targeting queries that don't have any real purchase intent whatsoever, which leads to no sales increase. So would you call that brand or performance? Or perhaps just a waste of money? And on the flip side, I've seen TV and radio campaigns which were very focused on capturing a specific audience. They bought really good spots in a smart way, combined them with great creative, scheduled it for a decent period of time, leading to short and long-term increases in sales. So again, is that performance or brand? So for me, this discussion is not binary, it's a continuum, a distribution where on one extreme you have your in-market, ready-to-buy portion of the market, and on the other hand, you have people who may never buy or buy off you very far into the future. So while everyone wants to capture the people who are ready to buy right now at the lowest cost to bump up their sales figures quickly, in the middle lies the vast majority of the target market. And these people will buy in the next sales cycle, or 2 or 3 or 4 or whatever. And you can't escape these laws of mathematics within your category. That is the length of the purchase cycle and the purchase frequency within your industry, no matter how good you are at marketing. So instead of arguing over performance or brand, the question you should really be trying to answer is how much are you going to allocate towards short-term in-market customers who will buy right away versus those who will buy sometime in the future. Then the secondary question is, what blend of channels or marketing initiatives are you going to dedicate to both portions of the market and ensure your brand is front and center when the purchase decision occurs? You can use all sorts of different channels or mediums and mixes of digital, traditional, and whatever else to achieve that aim. Performance marketing, brand marketing, outbound marketing, inbound marketing, conversational marketing, there is no shortage of people trying to position things into a category. You can call it whatever you want, apply whatever label, append the word marketing with whatever prefix you ever want underneath. It's the specific work that matters.